The sea had never looked so violent, and Marina had never felt so small. The merchant ship she had boarded just days earlier was now a carcass of splintered wood and spilled crates, flames licking the sails as chaos erupted around her. Men screamed. Steel clashed. And above it all, a black flag rippled through the storm, bones grinning across crimson cloth. Pirates! Her heartbeat thundered in her ears as she ducked behind a crate, clutching the necklace beneath her blouse like it could save her. She had only meant to travel from the capital to Port Alessa, delivering spices and silks for her father's trade. Nothing more. Nothing dangerous. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. Heavy boots slammed onto the deck beside her. Marina barely turned in time to see the shadow descend, a figure dressed in worn leather, drenched from the rain, blade raised and eyes fierce beneath the brim of a wide-brimmed hat. But the blade didn't fall. She's not one of them. A voice barked, sharp, commanding. Female. Bind her. Take her below. No harm. Marina gasped as rough hands yanked her upright. She struggled, cried out, kicked, but it was useless. Moments later, she was thrown into the darkness below deck, her wrists bound, the scent of salt, blood, and smoke burning her nose. Hours passed. Maybe more. Time meant nothing in the bowels of that ship. Finally, the door creaked open again. Lantern light spilled in, and with it came the captain. She stepped inside with the slow, confident gait of someone who feared nothing and no one. Her eyes locked onto Marina's. They were impossibly green, sharp as glass. "You're not crew," the captain said. Her voice was low, with a rasp that suggested storms lived in her throat. "No," Marina spat. "I'm a merchant. You attacked us." "We did," the woman replied calmly. "But I don't kill civilians. You'll be kept aboard until we're far enough from the trade route. Then I'll decide what to do with you." Marina's jaw clenched. "You'll be hunted for this." "Already am." The woman turned to go, but Marina's voice stopped her. "Who are you?" The captain hesitated, then turned, a flicker of something unreadable in her eyes. "Call me Belle." Belle. It meant nothing at first. Just a name. A pirate's name. But days passed, and Marina began to notice things. How the crew obeyed Belle not out of fear, but respect. How she walked the deck like she was born on it, but spoke with a precision, a cadence, refined, aristocratic. She was young, maybe 25. And though she kept a blade on her hip and a pistol across her chest, Marina saw her once at dawn, reading a book in French by the wheel. A week later, in the captain's quarters, where Marina had been summoned again, she saw the unmistakable emblem stitched inside Belle's coat, a golden sunburst. The royal crest. It hit her like a cannon blast. Belle wasn't just a pirate. She was Princess Isabella of Lysandra. Missing. Presumed dead. Vanished 3 years ago on the eve of her forced betrothal to some minor noble. Marina stared at her, heart pounding. "You're her," she whispered. Belle's eyes flicked up. "Who?" "You're the princess. You disappeared." A long silence passed between them. Then Belle, Isabella, sighed and leaned back in her chair. "And now you know." "Why?" Marina asked. "Why become this?" Isabella's gaze was distant. "Because I'd rather be free at sea than caged in silk. I'd rather command a ship than bow to a man I don't love. And because no one tells pirates who to be." Marina felt something shift in her chest. Respect. Maybe even envy. "You'll kill me now, won't you?" she asked quietly. "Because I know." "No," Isabella said, standing. "You'll stay. You'll keep your mouth shut. And in return, I'll keep you alive." "You don't trust me?" "I don't trust anyone," Isabella said, stepping close. "Especially not a woman with eyes that sharp." The air crackled. Marina swallowed. "I won't say anything." "You'd better not," Isabella murmured, gaze lingering a beat too long. Then she turned and left, leaving Marina alone, breathless, in a room that suddenly felt much smaller than before. Marina had never felt more out of place, and yet she was beginning to understand why some people chose the sea. The pirate ship, the Siren's Mercy, was chaos layered with routine. The crew cursed like devils, drank like gods, and obeyed orders with a discipline that rivaled any royal regiment. Marina, for the first days, was merely cargo, kept under watch, given hard bread and rainwater, spoken to only when necessary. But Isabella, kept calling her in, little by little. A question here, an observation there. At first, Marina believed it was all strategy, making sure the merchant girl stayed quiet, keeping her close to contain the risk. But soon, she noticed the way Isabella would look at her when she thought Marina wasn't watching, measured, curious, intense. Like she was waiting for Marina to reveal some hidden truth, or maybe daring her to. One afternoon, Isabella summoned her to the quarterdeck, under the pretense of reading the stars. "You know how to chart?" she asked, rolling out a faded celestial map. "Not well," Marina admitted. "My father kept me on land, said the sea was no place for his daughter." Isabella snorted. Typical. Men always thinking they know the limits of women better than we do. Marina smiled despite herself. "And you?" "Raised in silk and gold, now stealing from merchant ships." "Stealing," Isabella corrected, "from the corrupt, from the overfed, from the kinds of men who put gold on their plates while others starve." "And what will you do with it?" Marina asked. "This treasure?" Isabella looked at her, something glittering behind her stormy gaze. "Freedom, by passage for those who can't. Burn the rest in front of the lords who denied me my life." The fire in her voice sent a shiver down Marina's spine. But beneath the fury, there was something gentler. A longing. A girl who had once dreamed of something more than being a pawn in royal games. That night, the crew held a storm vigil. A tradition, they said, when dark clouds threatened from the east. Music and rum roared across the deck as waves slapped against the hull. Marina sat alone near the bow, watching the sky churn. Isabella approached with 2 mugs. She handed one over without a word and sat beside her. "You still scared of me?" she asked after a long silence. Marina took a sip. "Yes, but less than before." Isabella's lips twitched. "Progress." "You don't act like a princess," Marina said softly. "Good," Isabella replied. "That girl's dead. I buried her the night they tried to sell me to a stranger for an alliance." "And Belle?" "Belle was born of salt and fury. Belle doesn't bow. She breaks chains." Marina stared at her profile, the wind tugging at her loose, dark curls. "But she's still a woman, and she still has a heart." Isabella turned then, eyes sharp. "What makes you so sure?" "Because you haven't killed me," Marina said. "And you haven't handed me over to the crew." A beat of silence passed. "They think I'm your personal scribe," Marina added with a raised brow. "Or your lover." Isabella's eyes narrowed. "Which bothers you more?" Marina didn't answer. She just took another sip and looked back out at the sea. The next morning, a Navy vessel was spotted on the horizon. Tension sliced through the crew. Orders barked, sails shifted, weapons drawn. Marina was told to stay below. But when the ship turned away at the last second, just a patrol, Isabella descended into the lower deck and found her pacing. "I said stay put," she snapped. "You think I want to be here?" Marina retorted. "You think I enjoy waiting to die in some dark corner of your ship?" Isabella stepped closer. "Then why haven't you asked me to let you go?" Marina's breath caught. "Because you wouldn't. And because part of me doesn't want to." The air between them snapped tight. Isabella's eyes fell to Marina's lips for half a heartbeat. Long enough. "Careful, merchant," she whispered. "You don't know the kind of storm you're flirting with." "Maybe I'm tired of calm," Marina replied, voice low. Isabella stared at her, then turned sharply and left, her boots echoing down the hall like thunder. Days passed. The ship moved through a chain of hidden isles, picking up stolen cargo, gathering whispers of royal patrols hunting them. Marina became less of a prisoner and more of a ghost, everywhere, watching, listening, quietly absorbing the rhythm of the ship. One evening, while alone in the captain's quarters, she found a journal, leather-bound, worn. Inside, sketches of cities, maps, royal crests, but also poetry. Words scrawled in a rushed, passionate hand. Verses about freedom, rage, love. One line stood out, circled twice. She looks at me like I'm worth saving. Marina closed the journal slowly. That night, she couldn't sleep. When she stepped onto the deck to clear her mind, Isabella was already there. "You read it," the captain said, without looking. "I didn't mean to, but you did." "The line," Marina said softly. "Was it about someone?" "It was about someone I hadn't met yet," Isabella murmured. Their eyes met under the moonlight. No more lies. No more deflection. Just salt in the air and truth on their tongues. Isabella stepped forward, close enough to feel. "Tell me to stop," she said. "Tell me this is madness." Marina looked up at her. "It is. And I don't want it to stop." Marina tried to stay away after that night. She told herself the line between them was not just dangerous, it was a blade sharp enough to slice through both of their lives. Isabella was still a pirate, still a fugitive, still the woman who had taken her from everything she knew. But none of that changed how Marina's skin remembered the heat of her gaze, or how her body leaned forward now when she spoke, as if drawn by invisible current. The days blurred. The Siren's Mercy sliced through a stretch of open sea known for being perilously empty. The crew grew restless. The storms that had once threatened faded, and in their place came a different kind of tension, the quiet before something breaks. One evening, Marina found herself in the captain's quarters again, summoned without explanation. Isabella stood over a map, one hand braced against the table, the other tracing a route toward a narrow gulf flanked by Imperial patrols. "You're planning something," Marina said. "I always am." "Something reckless?" "Always." Marina crossed her arms. "What is it this time?" Isabella looked up. "There's a port near the edge of the Empire. Small, forgettable. But there's a man there who deals in secrets. He has a name for me, a high-ranking officer with enough information to buy our safety for a season. If we pay him." "With what?" "With whatever we find in the wreck off Crescent Reef." Marina raised a brow. "Treasure hunting now." "Call it strategic pillaging." Isabella smirked, then added, "We'll need you." "Me? You're good with numbers." "With languages. If the deal turns, I want someone beside me who knows how to listen while pretending not to." Marina hesitated. "You trust me that much?" "No," Isabella said, stepping closer. "But I trust myself around you." "Which is more dangerous?" Marina's heart flipped. Her voice dropped. "You shouldn't say things like that." "Why?" "Because I want you to mean them." "I do." The words landed like a stone in deep water. No ripple, just weight. Isabella moved closer, slow, deliberate. Her hand grazed Marina's waist. "Tell me to stop." "I don't want to." The kiss wasn't gentle. It was wild and sudden and full of teeth. Isabella gripped her like a storm, lips parting with a desperation that tasted like everything they hadn't said. Marina responded in kind, fingers tangled in dark curls, breath caught between gasps and moans. It was like drowning and breathing at once. When they finally pulled apart, both breathless, Isabella pressed her forehead against Marina's. "I've wanted to do that since the day you called me a coward with a crown." "You were," Marina whispered, smiling. "And now you're the storm." Isabella chuckled, then pulled away reluctantly. "We sail at dawn. Be ready." The journey to Crescent Reef took 3 days. The water grew colder. The sky darkened. The wreck they sought was a merchant galleon lost to rocks and greed decades ago, rumored to have sunk with a vault of trade gold and forged letters between high lords. The crew worked in tight shifts, diving in pairs, dragging up crates and bones and rusted steel. Marina helped catalog the contents, ink staining her fingers as she cross-referenced seals and currencies. On the second night, a storm rolled in, quick and brutal. The ship rocked. Lightning tore across the sky. Marina was thrown against a crate, blood blooming from her brow. Isabella found her minutes later, soaking wet, fury in her eyes. "You should have been below," she shouted over the wind. "I was helping. You could have died." Isabella's voice cracked. Marina stood, swaying, blood dripping down her temple. "So could you. So can anyone out here. We all bleed the same in the water." Isabella stared at her, then grabbed her face, kissed her like punishment. "You make me insane." "You were halfway there," Marina breathed. The storm passed by dawn, but the wreck yielded what they needed. Among the soaked documents and corroded coins was a sealed chest marked with a crest from Lysendra's inner court. Isabella stared at it like a ghost had risen from the sea. "What is it?" Marina asked. "Letters," Isabella murmured. "From my father's personal envoy. Proof they were planning to remove me even before I ran. A coup. Not yet. But a slow betrayal." They delivered the letters at the secret port. The contact, a thin man with sharp teeth and sharper eyes. "Love what you've seen so far, and want to help me keep creating these awesome stories on this channel? Then subscribe and hit the bell. Your subscription supports the channel and makes sure you get more exciting stories." Took the chest, flipped through the papers, and named his price: silence, updates, and passage through the eastern waters. Isabella paid. Marina watched her from the shadows. She saw the weight on her shoulders, the shadows under her eyes, the way she walked like someone who'd learned to carry betrayal like it was armor. That night, as they set sail again, Marina entered her quarters uninvited. Isabella didn't turn. "It's not over, you know. Even with the letters. They'll hunt me until there's nothing left to gain from my death." "Then we don't let them gain anything," Marina said. Isabella turned then. "We. Yes. If I'm already condemned for loving a pirate, I may as well be the one who helps her rewrite the map." Isabella stepped forward. "Say it again." Marina smiled. "Loving a pirate? Yes. You make it too easy." "Nothing about this is easy," Isabella said. "But if you stay, I'll protect you, even if it means surrendering what's left of my crown." Marina touched her cheek. "I didn't fall for the crown. I fell for the girl who burned it." Isabella closed her eyes, letting the words wash over her like absolution. Then she opened them slowly, fire and sea in every breath. "Then come with me. To the end. To the edge. Wherever this madness leads." Marina kissed her in response. And this time it was soft. Like a vow. Like a ship sailing home at last. The wind shifted that afternoon, sharp and bitter, pushing from the north like a warning carved into the waves. Isabella stood at the helm of the Siren's Mercy, her jaw tight, eyes narrowed toward the distant dark line bleeding across the horizon. She recognized that kind of sky, gray turned bruise, clouds thick as iron, the sea beginning to pitch beneath them with a rhythm too precise to be ignored. A storm was coming. A real one. "Drop the front sail by half," she barked. "Secure the rigging. Double the ropes on the east side." The crew moved fast, seasoned enough to know when their captain's voice turned low and clipped like that, it meant the sea wasn't going to play fair tonight. Below deck, Marina watched the sky through a round porthole as it darkened. Thunder growled in the distance. She could feel the ship starting to sway harder, faster. Her stomach twisted, not from fear, but from the knowing something was coming, and it wasn't just rain. She burst onto the main deck just as the first drops fell. "You should be below," Isabella snapped, her coat whipping behind her as the wind howled. "And miss the performance?" Marina shouted back, hair plastered to her face. "Not a chance. This isn't a game." "Then stop playing with my heart." Isabella froze, for a fraction of a second, her expression raw. Then the ship lurched. A monstrous wave slammed into the starboard side, sending barrels flying and ropes snapping in a whip-crack chorus. Marina stumbled, grabbed the rail, her knuckles white. The rain became a wall, the sea a thing alive and furious. "Below," Isabella said again, louder this time, reaching for her. But Marina stepped toward her instead, slipping on the soaked deck. Isabella caught her by the arm, held her, eyes burning. "I won't lose you to this ocean." "Then hold on," Marina whispered. Another wave hit. The deck tilted. Marina's grip slipped. Time fractured. Her body went weightless. And then, nothing but cold. Water swallowed her in a single violent breath. The roar of the sea turned to silence. Marina kicked, fought, but the storm dragged her down like a jealous lover. She opened her mouth to scream and got only salt. Above, the flashes of lightning lit the waves in brief silver snapshots. Isabella saw her fall, saw the moment Marina disappeared beneath the surface. And without a thought, without a breath, she dove. The cold hit like knives. She sank fast, hands clawing against the pull of the current, her mind screaming only one name. Marina. Her eyes burned from salt and strain, but she saw the faint movement below, a shadow drifting deeper. She surged forward, reached out. Fingers closed around Marina's wrist. Pulled, kicked, fought. The sea resisted. It wanted her, both of them. But Isabella had faced kings and blades and betrayal. She would not lose her to water. With one final push, she broke the surface, Marina in her arms, coughing and limp. The crew threw ropes, hauled them in. Isabella collapsed to her knees on the deck, dragging Marina's body onto the wet boards, pressing her ear to her chest. A heartbeat, weak but there. Marina coughed, sputtered, rolled to her side. "You dove," she rasped. "You really dove." Isabella's voice cracked. "You idiot. I love you too." Isabella blinked rain from her eyes. "Don't joke right now." "Not joking." Marina sat up slowly, shivering, soaked to the bone. "I've loved you since you told me you'd rather be free than crowned. Since you told me pirates don't bow. Since you kissed me like I wasn't just another prisoner." Isabella cupped her face with shaking hands. "You could have died. But I didn't. You wouldn't let me." "Never," Isabella breathed. "Not you." The storm raged around them. But on that deck, for a few suspended seconds, there was only them. Salt and breath and truth. Later, after the winds had passed and the crew had collapsed into exhausted silence, Isabella brought Marina below, wrapped her in blankets, sat beside her on the small bunk. "You're not safe here," Isabella said softly. "You never were." "I know," Marina whispered, "but nowhere else feels like home." Isabella looked away. "I can't protect you from everything. I don't want everything. I want you." Isabella laughed, a brittle sound. "You always were reckless. And you always were worth it." They kissed again, slowly this time, wrapped in the aftermath of fury, their bodies bruised and aching but alive. When the ship finally rocked gently instead of violently, when the sky cleared enough for stars to return, Marina lay with her head on Isabella's chest and whispered, "Promise me something. Anything. Don't disappear again. Not like the princess did." Isabella's fingers traced idle circles on her arm. "The princess is gone. But the pirate? She stays. For you." Outside, the sea stretched endlessly, deceptively calm. Inside the ship, two hearts beat in defiance of every storm that had tried to silence them. For 3 days after the storm, the Siren's Mercy sailed through calm waters, the wind steady and the sky deceptively clear. The crew moved slower now, not from laziness, but from the weight of near death clinging to their bones. Marina spent her hours above deck, her skin still raw from the salt, her mind replaying the moment she slipped beneath the waves again and again, only to be pulled back by hands she now trusted more than the stars. Isabella had barely left her side since the storm. She kept her watchful without smothering, present without explaining. They didn't speak of what happened in the dark, of Marina's whispered "I love you," or of the way Isabella had held her after, like letting go would end the world. But the silence between them was no longer cold. It was intimate, full. And yet, the world beyond them had not paused. On the 4th morning, the crow's nest gave a sharp call. "Sails." Off the starboard bow. Isabella was on deck in seconds, spyglass in hand. Marina joined her, squinting against the rising sun. A white flag, gleaming hull, blue and gold sigil. The Royal Navy. Shit, Isabella muttered. How close? Marina asked. Close enough to recognize us by name if they board. They're not on patrol. They're hunting. You. What do you think? Isabella snapped, though her anger wasn't aimed at Marina. Her jaw clenched as she lowered the spyglass. They'll follow. Maybe intercept us by nightfall. Then what do? We run. Orders snapped through the air like cracked whips. The crew moved fast, but not fast enough. The sea had turned against them again, wind pushing against their direction, the Navy vessel gaining steadily. By midday, it was visible without a glass. We'll need to hide, Isabella growled. There's a cove east of Dead Man's Bay. Sharp rocks. Tight entry. But they won't risk their hull chasing us through it. You've done it before? Marina asked. Once. And only because I was mad with grief and drunk on rum. So, we have a chance. A stupid one. Then let's take it. Isabella turned her gaze to her. You never flinch, do you? Only when I'm losing something worth fighting for. The words hit harder than they should have. But there was no time to answer them. The chase had begun. The Siren's Mercy turned sharply, sails full, crew shouting as they adjusted course toward the narrow entry of the jagged coastline. Behind them, the Navy ship gave no quarter. Marina stood beside Isabella at the helm, her knuckles white on the railing. If they catch us, they won't, Isabella cut in. But if they do, her voice dropped. You don't know me. You're no one to me. They'll try to use you against me. Don't let them. Don't ask me to lie. I'm asking you to live. Then don't give them the chance. Isabella looked at her, really looked, and something passed between them stronger than fear. Then the ship pitched as it veered toward the rocks. The entrance to the cove was barely wide enough for the Siren's Mercy. Waves crashed against stone like warning bells. Isabella's hands were steady on the wheel. The crew held their breath. The hull scraped once, loud, jarring, but they slipped through. Behind them, the Navy ship slowed. It couldn't follow. Not without splintering its underbelly. A cheer rose from the crew, sharp and sudden. But it didn't last. Captain, came a voice from the lower deck. We've sprung a leak. Starboard hold. From the scrape, Isabella muttered. It's flooding fast. Marina followed her below deck, where water was already rising ankle deep. We'll need to stop it, one of the crew said, or we're sinking inside our own damn hiding place. Pump the water out, Isabella ordered. Patch the breach with whatever you've got. I'll help. You don't delegate? Marina said, chest heaving. Not when my ship is bleeding. For the next 2 hours, they worked. Wood, tar, sweat, rope. Marina's hands bled from the friction. Isabella's coat was soaked, her hair loose and wild. Her sleeves rolled past the elbow as she hammered and sealed like she'd been born with tools in her hand. When the leak was contained and the water finally began to recede, they collapsed against the wall, breathing hard. You're insane, Marina panted. You're the one who stayed. I'm the one who loves you, remember? Isabella's head snapped toward her. You keep saying that like it won't undo me. And you keep pretending it hasn't already. Isabella closed her eyes. We can't stay here long. If they post guards at the cove mouth, we're trapped. Then we slip out by night, like ghosts. You make it sound easy. With you, nothing's easy. But everything feels right. Isabella turned to her, her face inches away. If we survive this, if I escape, if I find a place where no crown, no chain, no law can touch me, yes. Would you build it with me? Marina's heart thundered. Yes. Even if it means never going home again? You are home. The kiss was different this time. Not desperate, not stolen, but full of promise, slow and devastating and steady as the tide. When they pulled apart, Marina whispered, So what now, Captain? Isabella grinned, eyes alight. Now we become legends. The cave was quiet, too quiet. Isabella stood at the mouth of the rocky alcove where the Siren's Mercy now lay hidden, her hands braced on the slick stone, watching the horizon through the narrow gap between the cliffs. It was almost nightfall. The tide was rising. The Royal Navy ship had not moved. It hovered like a predator just outside reach, its silhouette dark against the last hues of day. "They're waiting for us to make a mistake," Isabella said without turning. "They're not moving because they know we have to." Behind her, Marina approached quietly, arms crossed against the cold, a smear of oil still on her cheek from the repairs below deck. "So, what's the plan?" "We wait until the tide shifts. There's a back channel just wide enough. Dangerous as hell, but they won't expect us to go through it. And if they do, then we die trying, but not here, not cornered like dogs." Isabella finally looked at her eyes hard, but something softer just beneath. "We're not giving them the satisfaction." Marina nodded, stepping closer. "You're trembling. It's the cold." "No, it's not." Isabella sighed, letting her eyes fall shut for a second. "I'm trying not to think about losing you." "Then don't." "That's not how my mind works, Marina. I've lost too many people." "You haven't lost me. I'm still here. And you're still crazy enough to stay on this ship." "Because I love you," Marina said again, voice steady. "Because I believe in whatever this is becoming between us. And because I want a future that doesn't belong to kings or navies or fathers." Isabella smiled faintly. "You speak like you were born on a throne." "I was born in a shop," Marina replied. "But I learned how to dream bigger from a pirate who used to be a princess." Isabella reached out and brushed her fingers across Marina's jaw. The intimacy was brief, but enough to remind them both what they were fighting for. "Tell the crew we sail at moonrise," Isabella said. "I'll be right behind you." Marina nodded and turned to go, but as she reached the lower steps of the ship, a sharp whistle cut through the air. Then came the cry. "Captain, we have a problem." Isabella spun and sprinted back to the deck. The crew was gathered in a tight circle near the forward mast. Marina pushed through with her heart in her throat. Two men stood in the center, Cassin, one of the newer recruits, and Rurik, a grizzled sailor with a jagged scar across his temple. Rurik held a knife. Cassin held nothing but fear. "Found him sneaking toward the stern," Rurik growled. Signal flare in hand. He was going to alert the Navy. "A traitor." Isabella's voice came like steel. "Is that true?" Cassin trembled. "They promised me gold. A pardon. A future. I didn't think. You didn't think." Isabella stepped forward, her voice deadly calm. "You didn't think selling us out might end in blood? They'll show mercy if we surrender. They'll hang us all." Isabella cut in. "They'll make an example of me, and you'll get your pardon from a rope around your neck." Cassin paled, then dropped to his knees. "Please." "I didn't go through with it. I didn't fire the flare." "But you meant to." Isabella stared at him for a long, heavy moment. Then she turned to her crew. "Lock him below. No food. No light. We'll decide what to do with him once we're safe." Rurik nodded and dragged him off. Marina looked at Isabella. "They're offering deals. That means they're desperate to finish this. They know if I disappear into the east, they'll never find me again. Then we need to move faster. We move at moonrise." The hours crawled. Marina helped pack supplies, roll maps, seal crates. The crew worked silently, eyes wary now, trust fraying at the edges. At the appointed time, Isabella gave the signal. The sails were lifted just enough. The rudder adjusted. The ship inched backward, then turned east toward the narrow channel Isabella had spoken of. It was barely visible even in the moonlight, a cleft in the cliffside lined with rocks like teeth. The tide pushed them faster than expected. Isabella gripped the wheel with both hands. "Steady," she shouted. "Watch the starboard edge." Marina stood behind her, every muscle taut, breath locked in her throat. The first rock passed within inches. Then another. The hull scraped once, then glided on. They were halfway through when a shout rang out behind them. "They're moving." The Navy ship had begun to circle the cliffs, guns ready. "They're going to fire." "We're not out yet," Isabella muttered. "Hold course." The water turned rougher, choppier. Then, from above, a flash of fire. The cannonball hit the cliff to their right, splintering stone, showering the ship in dust. The crew ducked. One of the riggers screamed as a rope snapped, slicing across his arm. "Move!" Isabella shouted. "Get us clear." The ship surged forward, then the rudder caught on something below. The wheel jerked. The entire deck tilted. Marina lost her footing, slid toward the rail. Isabella lunged, caught her arm. "I've got you. Don't let go." "Never." The crew fought to stabilize the ship. Isabella's knuckles were white on the wheel, her jaw clenched so tightly it looked like she might break it. "Come on," she hissed through gritted teeth. "Just a little more." Another shot fired, but it missed, echoing over the cliffs. Then suddenly, the water opened up. The channel ended. The sea widened. Freedom. Cheers erupted. The Navy ship couldn't follow without grounding. They had made it, but not without cost. 3 injured. 1 mast cracked. Supplies scattered. As the ship steadied on open water again, Marina slumped to the deck, heart racing. Isabella dropped beside her. "You okay?" "I think I forgot how to breathe." "You did good. You saved me. Again. You keep needing it. You keep offering." They both laughed, breathless. Then Isabella leaned closer. "We're not out of danger. Not yet. But we've bought ourselves time." "Time for what?" Marina asked. "To find the island," Isabella said. "The one I haven't told anyone about." "Why me?" "Because you're the only one I trust with a map." Marina looked at her, and for a long moment, forgot the sea, the blood, the sound of cannon fire. "Then take me there, Belle. Let's disappear together." "Not disappear," Isabella corrected, eyes fierce and full of something brighter than hope. "Let's become something new." They kissed under the moonlight, lips trembling from adrenaline and exhaustion and the certainty that no matter what the next storm brought, they'd face it side by side, pirate and merchant, outlaw and exile, survivor and survivor. The map was not made of parchment nor ink. It was carved, tiny and precise, into a brass compass plate that Isabella kept hidden in a false panel behind her cabin wall. When she pulled it out, hands steady despite the motion of the ship, Marina stared in awe. The engravings were faint but unmistakable, coordinates, marks of current patterns, a crescent shape etched like a smile, just below the westernmost line. "What is this place?" Marina asked, brushing a finger over the cool metal. "A myth," Isabella said. "To most. To me, it's the last card I've never played." They were seated at the captain's desk, the door bolted, the lantern burning low. Outside, the sea was calm for once, as if resting after the violence it had dealt. "My mother told me stories," Isabella continued, "before she died. Stories of a hidden isle, untouched by the crown, unreachable by ships that didn't know how to find it. A place where old bloodlines fled when the kingdom first fell into greed." "You think it's real?" "I know it is. She showed me this once, before my father took it from her and locked it away. I stole it back the night I ran." Marina's breath caught. "You've kept it all this time?" "Every night I spent hiding, fighting, stealing. This compass reminded me there was something left to chase. Something that wasn't revenge or gold or blood." "Freedom," Marina whispered. "Home," Isabella corrected. She slid the compass across the desk. "Help me find it." Marina studied the markings. She wasn't a cartographer, but she was a merchant's daughter, raised on maps and shipping lanes, on whispered rumors and ocean tales. "It's not in any known route. But if these markings are right, it's beyond the Crescent Drift. No trade ships go that far. Too many reefs. Too much wind." "Perfect," Isabella said with a grin. "Then no one's waiting for us there." The days that followed were filled with silence and tension, not from anger, but from the weight of purpose. They changed course, adjusted sails, rationed supplies. The crew followed orders, tired but loyal, clinging to the hope that their captain truly had a destination in mind beyond endless pursuit. At night, Marina and Isabella shared a bunk. Not every night brought heat between them. Some were quiet, full of soft breath and tangled limbs, of whispered stories told in the dark. Marina learned of Isabella's childhood, the palace gardens where she'd sneak honey cakes and climb trees in her royal gown, the hours spent fencing with wooden swords in secret because no one believed a girl should know how to fight. Isabella learned of Marina's mother, long buried, and her father's silent disappointment every time she asked for books instead of dresses. They learned each other like scripture. But still, something unsettled Marina. "You never talk about the night you disappeared," she said one evening, curled against Isabella's chest, fingers tracing idle lines down her arm. Isabella's body tensed beneath her. "There's not much to tell." "I don't believe that." Silence stretched, brittle as glass. Then, finally, Isabella spoke. "I was 19. My engagement had been announced to Lord Elric, a man twice my age, with eyes like cold wine. My father claimed it was for unity. In truth, Elric had paid for me. Gold and land, offered in quiet exchange." "And you ran," Marina whispered. "Not at first. I tried to stomach it. For my kingdom. For my people. But that night, I went to the wedding chamber. I saw the way he looked at me, like a jewel, not a person. I realized then that the crown I wore was just another shackle. So you vanished. I paid the stablemaster with my last pieces of jewelry. Rode until the road ended. Bought passage on a freight ship using a false name. Took years to build the Mercy. To find people who didn't care where I came from, only who I chose to be." "And who are you?" Marina asked. "With me?" Isabella's voice cracked. "Someone I never thought I'd be allowed to become." The next morning, they passed through the edge of the Crescent Drift. The sea changed there. The sky turned lavender at dawn. Birds circled that Marina had never seen before, bright plumage, long tails. The waves had rhythm, but no pattern. The compass spun for half a minute before stilling again. "It's close," Isabella said. "I can feel it." But not everything followed the plan. That afternoon, a small dinghy approached from the north, white cloth raised on a single mast. Marina spotted it first. "Unmarked," she said. "No flag." "Which means it's not innocent," Isabella muttered. They turned the ship slightly, preparing to circle wide. But the dinghy changed course, following. "Someone knows," Marina said. "Knows where we're going. Or knows who we are." Isabella called the crew to arms. Cannons primed. Sails adjusted. But the dinghy never came close enough to fire. It stayed at the edge of visibility, taunting, shadowy. "A scout," Isabella said grimly. "From the Navy? Or someone worse?" That night, Marina found her in the captain's quarters, staring at the compass. "What if we're being hunted not because of who I am," Isabella said, "but because of where I'm going? What if someone else wants the island? Then we get there first. And if there's nothing there?" Marina stepped forward. "Then we build something." "Out of what?" "Out of each other." Isabella looked up, eyes wide, vulnerable. "You make me want to believe in peace. I make you believe in yourself." Same thing. They kissed like it was the first time. Or the last. The kind of kiss meant for endings and beginnings. The next day, the fog rolled in. Thick. Heavy. Strange. The compass spun again. Then steadied. Marina pointed to the horizon. "There," she said. "Look." Through the mist, land appeared. Faint. Distant. But real. "We found it," Isabella whispered. "After all this time." But in the fog behind them, another shadow moved. The scout. Not alone anymore. Larger sails. Faster. Armed. "They're coming," Marina said. Isabella turned, hands on the wheel, eyes blazing. "Then let them try." Land. After weeks of salt and smoke and running, Marina stood at the bow of the Siren's Mercy, with her hand gripping the rail and her heart thudding against her ribs like a prisoner desperate for release. The fog clung to the water like a veil, but through it, the outline of the island sharpened, high cliffs, dense green rising from black rock, and the glint of waterfalls slicing down through the trees like silver veins. It didn't look like any place she'd ever seen on a map. It looked untouched, undiscovered, mythical. Behind her, Isabella stood silently, one hand resting on her sword, the other clenching the compass that had led them here. "It's real," she whispered. "All this time, I thought I might have built it up in my mind. But it's real." "You found it," Marina said. "No," Isabella corrected, stepping beside her. "We did." But the moment hung for only a breath. Because behind them, sails split the mist. No longer a single scout, but 3 ships, all bearing the royal crest, fast and hungry, closing in. The Navy had followed them through the drift. And now they were nearly cornered. "They must have gotten the location from the trader," Isabella said. "Cassin." "He's still below," Marina reminded her. He didn't need to fire a flare," Isabella snapped. "He only needed to speak when they caught up." She turned to the crew. "Prepare to dock. But be ready for combat. This isn't a retreat, it's a stand." The Siren's Mercy creaked as it veered toward the coast, sails full. The wind suddenly violent, as if the island itself resisted their arrival. The cliffs jutted upward like teeth, and Marina saw no easy inlet, no calm bay. "There," Isabella pointed. "A narrow split between 2 rocks. That's the mouth. Can we fit through?" "We'll find out." They steered toward it as the first cannon fired. It missed, splashing water high into the air beside the hull. The second hit the rear mast. Wood exploded. Crew screamed. Marina ducked, pulling a sailor to safety as ropes fell like snakes around them. Isabella gritted her teeth. Faster. The Mercy surged forward, scraping past the rocks, and then they were inside. A lagoon, hidden and bright, surrounded on all sides by steep jungle cliffs. The moment they crossed the threshold, it was as if the sea went still. The fog stopped. The air cleared. And they were somewhere else. Sacred. The crew dropped anchor near a rocky outcrop that could be climbed. Marina turned to Isabella. "We'll have to go on foot. Not all of us. Half stay to defend the ship. The rest follow me." They gathered what they could, blades, packs, the compass. Isabella kissed Marina hard before they stepped off the deck. "Stay close," she said. "I won't lose you now." "You never will." They climbed. The jungle was thick, but not hostile. Birds flitted overhead, strange and vibrant. The ground was soft with moss, and the air smelled of rain and roots. After an hour of steep hiking, they reached the top of the cliffs. And there it was. A plateau, flat and open, overgrown with vines but lined with stone walls. Ruins. Old, regal, forgotten. "It was real," Isabella breathed. "My mother's stories. This was a sanctuary. A hidden kingdom," Marina said, turning slowly. "Long before yours." But they didn't have time to marvel. Shouts echoed from below. Gunfire. Smoke. The Navy had forced entry into the lagoon. The Siren's Mercy was under siege. "We have to go back," Marina said. "No," Isabella said, gripping her arm. "We don't fight on their terms. We make them climb. Make them bleed for every step. And the crew? They'll hold. And if they don't, then we give them a reason to." Isabella turned to her second-in-command, a woman named Roan with one blind eye and a voice like broken stone. "Hide the wounded. Booby-trap the pass. If they make it to the top, we end it here." Roan nodded and disappeared into the brush with a handful of fighters. Isabella took Marina's hand and pulled her toward the heart of the ruins, a circular clearing surrounded by crumbling statues and pillars. In the center, a single stone altar stood. "Help me," Isabella said. Together they moved it. Beneath, a hollow. Inside, a chest, wood-rotted but sealed. Isabella pried it open. Inside, scrolls, trinkets, jewelry. A crown, dulled by time. "What is this?" Marina asked. "Proof," Isabella said, "that we belong to more than the empire that hunts us. That we descend from something older, stronger." "Will that stop them?" "No," Isabella said. "But maybe it'll remind me why I never wanted their throne." Footsteps approached. Gunshots cracked. Then, Roan's voice. "Captain, they're here." Isabella closed the chest. Drew her sword. Then let's show them what royalty looks like when she fights for something she loves. Marina stepped beside her. I'm not leaving your side. You never do. They took their position behind the stone walls. The first soldiers to reach the top were met with arrows, then blades. The fight was brutal. Mud, blood, screams. Marina fought with a dagger Isabella had given her, defending a narrow pass between two columns. She moved like instinct, like fire. Isabella was a storm, cutting through soldiers with the fury of years lost. The battle lasted hours, and when it ended, they were bloodied, bruised, but alive. Roan limped to them. They retreated. For now. They'll come back, Isabella said, with more. Then we fortify, Marina said. This place, it's ours now. Isn't it? Isabella turned to her. If we want it to be. I do. Isabella reached into her coat, pulled out the dull crown. She looked at it for a long moment, then placed it gently on the altar, walked away. That was never mine, she said. But this is. Marina kissed her like the world had finally stopped chasing them, because for one fleeting moment it had. For 3 days, no ships appeared on the horizon. No soldiers came through the jungle. The wounded aboard the Siren's Mercy were tended to in the shade of palm groves. The fires were put out. The bodies were buried. And for the first time since they'd fled the Empire, Marina and Isabella knew the taste of quiet. It was not peace, not yet, but something like it. On the second night, they lay together under a makeshift canopy, the stars above them endless, and the jungle humming with unknown life. Marina rested her head on Isabella's shoulder, fingers drawing absent patterns along her collarbone. I keep thinking it's over, she whispered. And then I remember it never really is. That's how survival feels, Isabella said softly. It teaches you to doubt stillness, to mistrust calm. I don't want to live like that anymore. Then we'll change it. We'll build something new. Here. Why not here? Isabella's voice held a spark again. Not rage. Not desperation. Hope. Marina turned to look at her. You really believe we can stay? I believe we can fight for it. And that's more than I ever had before you. The next morning, Roan returned from a scouting mission with grave news. A larger fleet, 5 ships, was anchored just beyond the reef. They're not here for reconnaissance, Roan said. They're waiting for the wind. When it shifts, they'll move in. And this time they'll burn everything. How long? Isabella asked. 3 days. 4 at most. Isabella didn't flinch. Then we prepare. The jungle became a fortress. Traps were set. Narrow passes blocked with logs and stone. Cannons from the Siren's Mercy were moved and hidden at higher ground, aimed toward the only inlet the ships could use. Marina worked beside the crew, dragging crates, sealing rations, marking escape paths through the cliffs. Isabella refused to discuss surrender. We fight or we die, but we do not kneel. That night, as the wind howled against the cliffs and the torches burned low, Marina found her standing alone at the edge of the ruins, the broken crown still sitting on the altar where she had left it. If we stay, they'll never stop coming, Marina said gently. Then let them come, Isabella replied. Let them break against us until they bleed for every lie they built that throne on. And if we don't win this time? Isabella looked at her. Then I'll die knowing I chose love over legacy, and that you knew every piece of me before the end. You're not dying, Marina said. Not while I'm breathing. You'd fight a kingdom for me? I already did. They kissed, slow and fierce, the kind of kiss meant to seal something sacred. The next day, they sent a message, sealed in wax, tied to a small raft, and pushed toward the fleet. Marina had written it. We have no flag but freedom. We have no throne but the earth beneath our feet. Turn back or be broken. There was no answer. That night, a single torch appeared on the ridge across the lagoon, then 5 more behind it. They were coming. The crew gathered in silence. Weapons were passed. Armor strapped. Isabella walked among them. No crown, no uniform, just leather, blades, and fire in her eyes. Marina stood beside her, armed with a crossbow and the same resolve that had carried her from a merchant's deck to the edge of the world. "When this ends," Isabella said, "whatever happens, I want you to know that I never believed I could love like this. Not in fire, not in ruin." Marina touched her cheek. "Then let's survive. And love and peace." "If peace exists," Isabella whispered, "we'll build it from ash." The jungle waited. The stars blinked overhead. And in the darkness, the sound of approaching sails carved the silence like a blade. It would all end soon, one way or another. The first cannonball shattered the silence just before dawn. It struck the eastern ridge, sending a spray of stone into the jungle and jolting Marina awake. She was on her feet in seconds, reaching for her boots, blades, crossbow. Outside, chaos unfurled like a storm cloud. Shouts, the sound of steel drawn, boots pounding across the makeshift camp. The horizon was lit with fire, 5 ships approaching fast, sails swollen with the morning wind. The final attack had come. Isabella was already on the cliffs, shouting orders, her hair whipping behind her like a war banner. "Hold formation. No one moves until I give the signal." Marina climbed up beside her, chest burning. "They've begun? They've committed." Isabella turned. "We end this today." The crew assembled quickly, eyes hard, weapons gleaming. Roan stood with her arm in a sling, teeth gritted. "Cannons are ready. Traps are armed." The Mercies lined up to block the inlet. "And if they get past the reef?" Marina asked. "Then we fight them on the rocks." Isabella drew her sword. "We bleed for no throne but our own." The enemy landed by midday, waves of soldiers spilling into the jungle, uniforms bright against the green, muskets raised, shields locked. The defenders met them with arrows, fire traps, ambushes from trees. The ground shook with explosions and screams. Marina fought like flame, swift and precise. She moved between cover, protecting the wounded, guiding soldiers. She never looked for Isabella because she knew exactly where she would be, at the front. Isabella was fury incarnate. She fought with the recklessness of someone who had nothing left to lose and everything left to protect. She dropped 3 men in seconds, slashed through a 4th, and turned to face the 5th, only to freeze. He stood taller than the others, helmet under one arm, sword drawn but not raised. His eyes were the same as hers. "Isabella," he said, breathless. "Sister." For a moment, the battle around them fell into silence. Marina, watching from behind the ruins, froze. The man stepped forward. "I begged them to let me come," he said. "I told Father I'd bring you back. You don't have to die here." Isabella didn't lower her blade. "I'm not dying. You abandoned your duty. I chose my freedom. You're still the heir. You're still—" "I'm nothing to that place," she snapped. "You know that. They sold me. They never saw me as more than a pawn. They see now," he said. "You've become a symbol of rebellion, of chaos. They want you silenced before you spark something greater." Isabella's voice dropped. "Then let them try. I can protect you," he said. "Come back, and I'll keep you safe." "You never could," she replied, eyes gleaming. "You watched them chain me to a fate I didn't choose. And you stood still." His voice cracked. "I was just a boy." "So was I," she whispered. "And I grew into a woman who burns kingdoms." Around them, the tide shifted. Her crew pushed forward. Marina raised her crossbow, aiming just behind Isabella in case anything turned. But the brother, he stepped back, lowered his sword. "You love her," he said, glancing at Marina. "Yes." "More than the crown?" "There is no crown," Isabella said. "Only what I choose to build." He nodded once, jaw tight. "Then this is goodbye." It already was. He turned and vanished into the retreat. The signal rang out, one long horn from the sea. The Navy was pulling back. One ship already burning, another half sunk. The reef had claimed them. And the Siren's Mercy, her sails torn and hull cracked, still floated like a promise kept. The battle was over. The ruins were bloodied, but still standing. Isabella turned slowly, found Marina, and walked straight into her arms. They held each other for a long time. No words, just breath and pulse and the weight of survival pressing against skin. "You're safe," Isabella whispered. "You are too," Marina said. "We won. For now." "Forever," Marina corrected. "Because we're done running." That night, the fires were smaller. Not for mourning, but for warmth.
The crew sang.
Some wept. Some kissed under trees. The jungle, once filled with fear, now felt like a home. Isabella sat on the edge of a stone wall, looking down at the altar where she had left the crown. Marina joined her, 2 cups of whatever passed for wine. "You could have killed him," Marina said. "But you didn't. He was the only one who ever listened, even if he didn't speak." "Do you think he'll come back?" "No," Isabella said. "He saw who I am now. And I think, deep down, he respected it." "Then maybe," Marina said, "the old kingdom won't rise again." "Good," Isabella murmured. "Let it rot." She took Marina's hand. "We can rebuild something better. Not for rulers, but for runaways, rebels, lovers. You think others will come?" "I hope so. And what will we be, to them?" "Legends," Isabella said. "Ghost stories whispered in taverns. A pirate queen and her stolen bride." "You didn't steal me," Marina said. "I walked willingly." "You ran," Isabella teased. "Straight into my arms. And I never want to leave them." Isabella reached into her coat, worn and torn and covered in blood, and pulled something out. A small, thin ring, hammered from the metal of a fallen sword.
Rough.
Imperfect.
Real.
She got to one knee, not as a royal, not as a pirate, but as a woman in love. No crowns. No ceremonies. No kingdoms. Just you and me. Stay with me, Marina. Build something here. Make it ours. Marina's eyes filled with tears. She didn't speak. She just bent, took Isabella's face in her hands, and kissed her like every answer she could ever give was in that touch. Around them, the island pulsed with life. The stars blinked. The sea, for once, was quiet. They stayed like that, holding each other, on stone and blood and hope. And when the wind shifted, it didn't bring danger. It brought the scent of home. Thank you so much for being here and for believing in this channel. If you feel in your heart, you can donate with super thanks so I can focus more and more on this project. Your support helps me keep creating these love stories and bringing them to life for you. See you in the next video.